Shannon, one of the things we do know is that the Attorney General says there were no requests from Mueller to the Justice Department that were denied. Questions whether, Mueller was going to subpoena the president, that was something that a lot of people were concerned about. That apparently, no, didn't happen. So if he was never told no, does that signal to you that Mueller actually got all the answers he wanted?
No. It just means that he wasn't denied the opportunity to inquire on certain evidence. I think one of the really interesting fights that's going to be looming is if, for example, Congress subpoenas Mueller, they're going to want to ask him, what was your thinking? Why didn't you have the president come in and be interviewed? And DOJ is going to fight tooth and nail to stop that kind of inquiry. I mean, I think we see in that letter that Rosenstein wrote to Grassley in the summer, he draws a line in the sand. He says, Mueller's like any other DOJ prosecutor, subject to the AG, subject to the deputy. We don't like Congress messing around in our investigations. They're not going to want that kind of inquiry. If you want to put out what we actually did, that's in the narrative. We'll tell you who we interviewed, what documents we have. But that kind of thinking, the strategy, the decisions that really go to the heart of, did he get his answers? Did he have the opportunity to dig down deep? They're going to fight very hard about that.
Now, Kara, Shan says if Robert Mueller is subpoenaed, Democrats are so resistant to any distilled version of the Mueller report. Have we now passed the point of if they will subpoena him to when they will subpoena him? Regardless of what Bill Barr releases, are we expecting that Democrats want Bob Mueller there to testify anyway?
I think so. I mean, I really can't imagine a scenario where, it's a 2-year-long investigation. We've had, the House kind of say, we've been waiting for this report. We're going to make our decisions after this report. And if they're not satisfied by the report, and, we still don't know what it actually says. We just have this one-page note to the Hill. I think they're going to want to hear from the man that conducted the investigation, but they're going to run into these issues that Shan was just explaining of, Mueller is known for being a very by-the-book guy. He's not probably going to fly off the seat of his pants when he's answering questions. So there might be a lot of frustration from his testimony when he goes to Capitol Hill.
We had Gallon a couple of hours ago, I think at this point, I can't really tell. But she said no further indictments equates to this president is not an agent of the Russian government. Is that true, Shan?
No. I mean, first of all, if you really parse that one-pager we got, it says no further indictments from the special counsel, which leaves open other indictments from U.S. Attorney in D.C., U.S. Attorney in Southern District. But certainly just because there are no more indictments from the special counsel doesn't really answer the question of what kind of involvement the president had with Russia. And that really is going to be a question for the congressional investigations that have a really different motive and perspective than criminal investigations. They want full transparency in Congress, very far-ranging. Criminal investigations, very narrow, very focused, and they're meant to be opaque, except when you get to court.
And also, they don't have to go to court at the end of the day. They're speaking to public opinion and political wins as well. I mean, in order to have anything that they could really sell as more than just a talking point in 2020, the word impeachment that none of the Democratic leaders want to utter yet, they're going to have to find something that's pretty provable, pretty undisputable. But they're looking at obstruction of justice, at potential corruption, about just, mishandling of your public office. That's much broader and much squishier than what a prosecutor has to prove in order to get a conviction in court.